Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Georgiemon and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about Chainsaw Man chapter 146. So, what did you think about this week's chapter? To be honest, this week's chapter was amazing. I think it's actually, I would go as far as to say it's one of my favorite chapters in the entire series up to this point, because it really culminated everything that Fujimoto has been setting up part 2 in a beautiful and very meticulous way, which now we know what the main thread is going forward, as well as we're setting up the climax to the story. So everything was fantastic in this week's chapter, and I can't wait to see where the story goes from here. And to be honest, I think going forward in the story, we're just going to be going at 95 miles per hour in a 10-mile, school zone, because now we're going to go, straight up heat and fire, because now we're setting up the final climax, which is something I'm, can't wait to see. Now, before I go any further with this week's chapter, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you guys can be up to date with all my Chainsaw Man, as well as all my anime and manga content that I'll be providing in this channel. It really helps out a lot, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you guys could, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into this week's chapter. So the chapter starts off where we left out last week, which is pretty much Yoshida, this defeating Asa single-handedly, and that's something that I think was pretty epic. And I still think, just Yoshida by himself was able to disarm, literally and figuratively, disarm Asa. Like, just in an instant, you get to see that, Yoshida is a great, combatant, a very powerful foe. Even in part 1, we saw that when he was throwing down with Quan Chi. And at the end of this week's chapter, we get to clarify that, no, he did defeat Asa, because Asa seems, defeated. Now, whether he's going to kill her or not, I doubt it, because especially what we find out later in the chapter. But continuing from that, we catch up also with Barim and Fumiko and what they're up to. And what we find out is that, they start talking about like the Justice Devil. And we got a little glimpse of what the Justice Devil was last week, at least from what we understood. And we find out that pretty much the Justice Devil is able to change, shift, and transform people to whatever they want. So my theory goes out there that pretty much I think that that's how, the fake Sawman was able to be created, because of the Justice Devil, because it was able to change itself to that. But who knows? It might be the doppelganger of Chainsaw Man, or maybe the embodiment of Chainsaw Man's, fears. Who knows? I'm still thinking it's going to be something regarding now, especially after the context that we got in this week's chapter by Barim. And we also see that Barim, he was a 40 chess mastermind when it came to planning all this out, because we find out that the cult that, the Chainsaw Man cult, because a lot of people questioning, like, what was the point? Like, they already got beaten, like, what? And I always said from the get-go, like, maybe no, I think that we're setting up more, and I think that they definitely did. Fujimoto definitely dropped a big bombshell, not just one, multiple bombshells. And one of them was pretty much that Barim says, they made contracts with all, with this devil, and the devil lets them change shift, as well as, they made another contract with another devil, which is the Fire Devil. And we find that through an explosion that happens in a building. We are like, whoa. And it's very like, an attack, like a terrorist attack. And it's like, whoa, like things go from 0 to 100 real quick. Like everything that we thought that, the public safety took the W, they won, we're completely wrong. Because it seems like at the end of the day, the Chainsaw Man Church won, because Barim also explains that, as all this is happening, all these people start transforming into Chainsaw Man looking things. The chainsaw comes out of their forehead, and it's like all over the place. You see all the followers, everybody that made a contract pretty much with the Justice Devil, I'm assuming. And we see that pretty much all these destruction where they start killing like all these cops, or, law enforcement, as well as public safety, people. And we see that as the chapter continues, that Barim even explains even more. And Fumiko's like, how did you even like come up with this? Like, what are you doing? And then Fumiko, like, pretty much, Fumiko is just shocked, and I don't blame her, because they thought they won, but in reality, it was part of Fami and Yoshida's master plan, as well as Barim's. And you see that Barim starts talking about, like, there's this big threat that's gonna come in a year and a half from now, and that big threat is the thing that they're setting everything up for. And that big threat, that's the reason why they started implementing all these members. And we find out that there's around the world, there's 350,000 people like that activate in an instant. And you're like, Jesus, that's insane. Like, this is a large scale attack, and a lot of casualties are going to happen. This is like a global scale now. We thought that the Falling Devil was a global scale event. This is going to be a global scale event, I think even higher, because now you got people pointing fingers at Chainsaw Man, as well as the church. And I think this does a great job at pretty much making Denji the enemy, even though he has nothing to do with it, but this church, is the ones behind all this. So I can see in the future, just a huge conflict and a war between humanity, trying to like eliminate this threat. And as the chapter continues, we also see that, as Marine talks about like this entity that in a year and a half from now will come and attack and destroy everything. That's why Fami, has been setting up this church and everything, so to get Chainsaw Man strong enough to make this happen. And Denji's like, what are you talking about? You're making nonsense. Like this you king and ruler? Like, yeah, right. And then that's where Nayuta cuts Denji. I was like, no, Denji, he's telling the truth. And this was a very important part of the chapter because Nayuta clarifies who the main threat is in the story, which is something that almost everybody, and their moms, predicted, but it was nice to finally clarify, the final end goal and the final boss of the story, which seems to be the strongest, according to Nayuta, the strongest super duper devil there is. Such a devil, so powerful that, the existence is feared amongst everybody, and his name is like, like the most scary devil amongst all of them, and that is the Death Devil. And knowing that just clarifies a lot, because now people were theorizing like who's also going to be the final threat, is who is the final villain, and we all speculate is going to be the fourth horsewoman, and that's going to be the oldest sister. I guess according to Nayuta, she is the oldest amongst all of them, which makes sense because when it comes to fear, the number one fear ever made by humanity was death. We're all scared of death, and it's the oldest fear, I think, in humanity as a whole. So just seeing that the Death Devil is the final boss, now you're really putting your we're taking the back seat. You're like, okay, how are they going to defeat this? And how they explain it is that Nayuta pretty much explains that the reason Fami and I and Yoshida, as well as people have been planning these things behind the scenes, has been specifically to get you guys to be stronger, because what we need is for you guys to be feared, Chainsaw Man as well as War to be super duper strong to even stand a chance. So, and that pretty much clarifies what their intention was, what was the motive of the Chainsaw Man Church, as well as why Nayuta and Yoshida and Fami were all working together, at least from what it seems. Definitely Fami and Nayuta, but as a Yoshida, definitely with Fami. So it makes sense why these three different people would be working together. Nayuta cares about Denji and his well-being, Yoshida cares about public safety, and Fami, she just cares about food. So it makes sense why they all teaming up to prevent the Death Devil from coming to Earth and just wrecking shop. But yeah, that's pretty much how the chapter ends. We ended with this double page splash that looks awesome, and it's just pretty much this ruckus everywhere, and it's an absolute it's insanity, and it's a big massacre. And I think that going forward in the story, this will be the catalyst that makes it so humanity starts planting a global scale war against Chainsaw Man, which would make it so Chainsaw Man gets more feared, and then also more people will be scared because now they're scared about war, because probably they're going to create a war, and then nobody likes war. Everybody's scared of it because it's it's a bunch of people just destroying each other. So the fear of the war, incoming war, is going to be increasing as well, making Yoru stronger. Now, what I'm very curious to see is just how powerful the Death Devil is, because we've seen some of the strongest entity in Chainsaw Man up to now. We've seen the Falling Devil, we also seen the Darkness Devil, and the Darkness Devil is, I would argue to this day, the strongest entity we've seen. I mean, besides like Makima and besides Makima, I would say the Darkness Devil and Makima were having a neck to neck, and besides those two, I think those are strong, as well as Falling Devil. I mean, Falling Devil was pretty OP to all things considered. So I'm very curious to see how strong this Death Devil is, because if Denji and Asa, they need to get super duper strong just to even stand a chance, then this is going to be an insane fight, and I can't wait to see just how they're able to manage this, because it's not just going to be them. I think Fami definitely has to step in, as well as Nayuta, and we do know that Nayuta's pretty strong. He's the control devil, and I'm wondering if Nayuta were to attempt to even control the Death Devil, if he's just immune, that's how powerful he is. His will is so powerful that he would be immune to any type of trick by her. So all things considered, I think this week's chapter was immaculate. I think it was fantastic. I think Fujimoto has been on the top of his game, constantly, non-stop. He's just been consistently knocking out chapters, week to week, that have been, fantastic. And I think that this week's chapter was the culmination of the slow burn that for a lot of people feel like, you know, where's the story heading to, is being too slow. And I, you know, a lot of people were displeased with the pacing of the story. I myself was always a fan because I like when people set up, like, you know, when you set it up perfectly and you set it up so, you know, you have a huge payoff. And I think this week's chapter was definitely a huge payoff. And I can't wait to see where the more payoffs come off, because now we're seeing, you know, we're definitely anticipating a big collision between, you know, the War Devil and the Chainsaw Man. So, as well as, I think if they have to team up, we also got to reunite Asa with Denji, which that opens a huge can of worms, because now you're going to be like, okay, these two are back together. Like, how is that going to work out? Because, like, Asa definitely remembers Denji going on a date with her. She thinks that he dumped, like, you know, he ditched on her, and Denji obviously has some feelings to Asa. Now, where does things get even more interesting is that what if, you know, the public safety, you know, trapped, you know, Asa and took her in, and they're probably going to fill her in all of this as well. But what if they took her into, like, the prison to, you know, keep her from escaping? In that prison, there's Reese. A little spicy drama. What if those two start talking and, you know, they're like, oh, why are you here? And then Denji sees both of them. It's like, oh man, like, I got to pick. And once again, Denji's in that conflict where, like, all right, who do I gotta pick? I mean, part one, he had to choose between Reese and Makima. Same here with this. Would it be funny if, like, you know, Yoru and Reese? I just think it's funny if something like that were to happen, because it'll be like, wow, Reese is getting shafted again by another horsewoman. That's insane. Which, no, come on, bro. Like, Reese is great. Love her to death. I'm still, you know, holding out hope that we see her. I mean, we already seen every single hybrid except for her. So definitely Fujimoto's setting her up. And I think she's going to be also a huge part in, you know, maybe why Denji, like, he might be conflicted, like, no, I don't want to work. But then maybe Reese is the voice of Reese, and I was like, come on, join me. Like, let's help out. Or who knows? I'm just throwing out stuff. I just want to see my girl Reese again. Can y'all blame me? Nah. You know what I'm saying? I just want to see my girl. But with all that being said, what did you guys think about this week's chapter? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys thought it was alright? Whatever you guys thought, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Chainsaw Man, as well as more anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.